What's up, you boxing maniacs? True That Boxing, back with another one and everything. And before I get into it, y'all already know what to do. Throw a two-piece right at that subscribe button and that bell icon there to the right if you already haven't. Throw a jab at all so you can be notified on all the boxing content and all the boxing news that I drop. And don't forget to throw a straight and true jab right at that like button and everything. Now let's get straight into it. What happened past Saturday night? Let's give props to the IBF WBC welterweight champion of the world, Errol Spence Jr. The truth is back. He's coming back off a horrific, terrifying, scary moment after flipping and rolling and being ejected out of a high-speed Ferrari. That's right, and only to escape with a few cuts and bruises and maybe a few missing teeth with no broken bones. And came back and defended that title against very dangerous ex-champion Danny Garcia. Congratulations, Errol Spence Jr. He controlled that fight with that jab. He had a very, very long and straight, true jab, and it was snapping, and he knew when to throw it, and he knew how to throw it on time, and he was connecting to Danny Garcia and gave him a nice mouse up under that eye. That jab was just busting Danny Garcia up. That jab was in control. That jab won that fight. That jab did it all. Congratulations, Errol Spence Jr. With that being said, iconic superstar Manny Pacman replied and said, "Congratulations, Errol Spence, on the victory. Welcome back." Now, Errol Spence wants to fight Manny Pacman. The new generation, one time Keith Thurman was calling out Pacman, saying he's old and he couldn't do this and he couldn't do that, and what he was going to do to the iconic superstar Manny Pacman that's been around. He destroyed one time Keith Thurman. Everybody wants Pacman because he's still on top. He's still the man. So it looks like the truth. Errol Spence Jr., the IBF WBC champion, will be facing the iconic superstar Manny Pacman that ate up one time Keith Thurman just like Pacman would. Gobble, 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 gobble. Toe one time up. So who will be the man to dethrone Manny Pacman? Will it be one time Keith Thurman? Nope. Will it be the truth, Errol Spence, in 2021? We'll see. If that doesn't happen, which it should happen, and Errol Spence lose, does he fight Bud Crawford? That's another person that wants Manny Pacman. So Manny Pacman is a wanted man. Everybody's gunning for Manny Pacman. So it's more in the favors of Errol Spence Jr. fighting Manny Pacman, the iconic superstar, in 2021. And as far as Danny Garcia, like I said before, I take nothing away from Danny Garcia. He's a real champion. He didn't make excuses like the iconic superstar Manny Pacman when he lost against Floyd Mayweather. Said he had a shoulder injury. Danny Garcia didn't make excuses like Loma Chico when he lost to Teofimo Lopez. Danny Garcia said he takes his hat off to Errol Spence because he was the better man. He had a long and rangy jab that he was snapping that was straight and true. And he knew when to throw it and how to throw it. And he was landing. And it gave Danny Garcia a mouse. But Danny Garcia didn't make no excuses. Like a real champion, should say, hey, I lost this fight fair and square. That's a real champion. I take nothing from Danny Garcia, and Danny Garcia didn't just get beat up in that fight. Even though it was a unanimous decision, Danny Garcia was still in that fight all 12 rounds. He was dangerous. There was a point in time in that fight where Errol Spence's trainer, Derrick James, told Errol Spence, hey man, ain't time to get tired. Ain't time to stop slacking and putting your hands down, because Errol Spence did get tired. He was putting his hands down. This is his comeback fight. He was losing it. He was losing his concentration. The trainer told Errol Spence Jr., hey, this is when Danny Swift Garcia knocks people out. Step it up. Good job, Derrick Janer, for saying that, because Errol Spence Jr. did step it up. But back to Danny Garcia. Now that he came up short those 3 times, and like I said before, he didn't get just beat up. He was in that fight all 12 rounds. Even in the 12th round, he was dangerous. He could have knocked out Errol Spence. But Errol Spence was smart. He was a smart fighter. He did very well. Props again to Errol Spence. But Danny Garcia, now, what's next for him? He's a gatekeeper. What is a gatekeeper? A gatekeeper is a person that fights upcoming welterweight fighters. They got to get through Danny Garcia to make it in title contention. So Danny Garcia got to continue winning to be set to be back in line for a title bout. He's a gatekeeper now. A very solid gatekeeper. A very dangerous gatekeeper. I don't think it's over for Danny Garcia. I think we'll see him fighting it again for another title. He'll probably get his rematch against Showtime Sean Porter. He may get a rematch against Errol Spence. We don't know. But we'll see him. He will be back. He's a strong gatekeeper. But it looks like we're going to see the truth. Errol Spence Jr. versus superstar iconic Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao in 2021. True That Boxing is coming with the news. That's all I have for you guys. No boxing, no life. Peace out.